Welcome to the Kabin, or should I say, welcome to the Warzone. Today we're taking an exclusive look at some miniatures from an upcoming wargaming Kickstarter. Before we start though, please consider giving the video a like if you enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about future content. With that said, let's get to it. This video is my contribution to OGA, Other Games April. It's an initiative started by Miniac, where fellow content creators within the hobby highlight games and products from lesser-known companies. I love what OGA stands for, and I hope this video will encourage you to support other small businesses. Last year, I made a reaction video about the Warzone Eternal Kickstarter, which unfortunately was cancelled. The team at Res Nova Games have been transparent about wanting to develop the campaign further to meet the expectations of the fans. Now they are ready to launch their new Kickstarter on May 2nd. If you want to check it out for yourself, the link is in the description down below, along with other social media links to Res Nova Games. Just a bit of background for those of you not familiar with Warzone Eternal. This game is set in the Mutant Chronicles universe, which is a setting that is very near and dear to me. It began here in Sweden in the early 90s as the brainchild of a company called Target Games. They had role-playing games, board games, novels, collectible card games, comic books, and last but not least, a miniature wargame called Warzone. It reached international fame and was quite popular through the mid to late 90s. Unfortunately, Target Games ceased to exist as a company, but other parties were given the license and the freedom to put their own spin on the game. Now Alex Canus, Brian C.P. Steele, and the rest of the team at Res Nova Games are bringing the game back to life. They are using the fantastic art and designs from the original edition, modernizing it with the help of current miniature making technology and innovative rules to make a truly awesome looking game. Full disclosure here. I reached out to Alex and asked if I could help support the launch of the Kickstarter. He kindly responded by sending this package of miniature prototypes for me to check out and showcase on the channel. Okay, I can't wait any longer. Let's get this package opened. I wasn't charged anything for this package, except for customs duty. This is the first time I'm collaborating with a company and I'm so excited about it. But you should know that Res Nova has not paid me money to make this video. You will hear my honest opinion about these miniatures and the upcoming Kickstarter. The miniatures are not in production yet. That's what the Kickstarter is for. So I was sent 3D printed resin prototypes to check out. You should be aware that some details likely will change and they may not represent the full quality of the final product. Exciting. Okay, looks like 5 bases. Okay, look at these. So I think we have a blood beret here from the Imperial faction. And here we have a trencher, also from the Imperial Corporation. I think this is a Capital Free Marine, I believe. And I do believe we have a Sunset Striker, also from Capital. Finally, we have a Golden Lion from the Imperial Corporation. These are really cool, and man, I can't wait to get some paint on them right now. For this first video, I decided to begin with painting the trencher, and I'm hoping to paint as many of the other miniatures as I can through the course of the Kickstarter. I think these look much more dynamic than those that were shown last year. I can see a clear influence from the classic artwork of Paul Bonner, Paolo Parente, and others. Now, in my opinion, Res Nova Games made the right decision to take some extra time to rework the sculpts. Don't get me wrong, I did like last year's lineup, but these are clearly superior to me. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. The color palette I chose for the trencher was inspired by the classic artwork from Paul Bonner. Being 3D prints, the miniatures didn't require much cleaning, but I saw some print lines that I wanted to fix. I took some small chunks of milliput and let them dissolve in some alcohol to create a thin slurry. To ensure a smooth texture when dry, I dropped some dollops of the mixture onto my cutting mat until I was satisfied with the dried finish. To help smooth out the layer lines, I painted 2 thin coats of this mixture onto the figures. The goal was to smooth out these parts but still preserve the surrounding details as much as possible. Next up, I undercoated the miniature with Chaos Black. This was followed by a zenithal highlight of Liquitex Titanium White. I then sealed the whole thing with a 50-50 mix of matte and satin varnish. For the leather garments, I used Gorthor Brown as a base coat. The wooden handle on the gun was painted with XV88. And for the metal details, I used Lead Belcher. Lastly, I washed all these areas with Agrax Earthshade. To bring back some definition, I layered Gorthor Brown on the leather garments. Afterwards, I used Steel Legion Drab. Followed by a selective highlight of Zandri Dust. Finally, I used Kislev Flesh as an edge highlight. To make the whole piece cohesive and turn the hue more yellow, I used a glaze of snakebite leather mixed with a lot of contrast medium. The wooden details were highlighted with Baylor Brown. This was followed by a more selective highlight of Ungor Flesh. Finally, I used a glaze of Gorgrunta fur with a lot of contrast medium. I used Lead Belcher to bring back some definition onto the metal details. Lastly, I used Runefang Steel to highlight. As for the cloak, I used Vulcan Green as a base coat. I then shaded these areas with Nuln Oil. To add back some definition, I layered on Vulcan Green again. To brighten it up a bit, I used Lauren Green. And then Warboss Green as a highlight. I used Gauss Blaster Green as a final selective highlight. To bring all the colors together, I used a glaze of Poxwalker with a lot of contrast medium. I base coated the blanket on top of the backpack with Eshin Grey. This was then washed with Nuln Oil. To bring back some definition, I layered on Skavenblight Dinge. This was followed by Dawnstone. And finally, a selective highlight of Administratum Grey. This time I used a glaze of Basilicanum Grey with a lot of contrast medium. I base coated the bracelets and the eye lenses with Abaddon Black. The buttons on the bracelets were then painted with Evil Sun Scarlet. This was followed by a highlight of Wild Rider Red towards the top right corner. I used Troll Slayer Orange to brighten this further. Finally, a dot of Uriel Yellow was placed right at the edge of the corner. I added a small dot of White Scar towards the top corners of the eye lenses. Then, I layered on Altdorf Guard Blue towards the front. This was followed by a layer of Hoeth Blue. And finally, I added a highlight of Lothern Blue. In truth, it was a bit tricky to paint the eye lenses on camera, so I went back and cleaned them up a bit while simultaneously adding a final highlight of Baharoth Blue. The number 3 symbol on the right shoulder pad was base coated with Celestra Grey. I then painted an outline around it with Abaddon Black. Inside the black, I painted a thin line of Ulthuan Grey. I then used White Scar to highlight the sharpest corners of the number. The Imperial symbol on the left shoulder pad consists of many different colors. Here I used Uriel Yellow, Altdorf Guard Blue, Evil Sun Scarlet, and White Scar. To dirty the whole thing down and to make it match the armor better, I washed it with Targor Rageshade. I then sealed the whole thing with a 50-50 mix of matte and satin varnish. After pinning and gluing the trencher to its base, I used PVA glue on the surface and added some Fields of New Zealand from Geek Gaming Scenics. To add a different hue and make it look dusty, I used burnt umber pigment from Vallejo. Finally, I glued on some Highland tufts from Army Painter and painted the rim of the base with Abaddon Black. With that, the trencher is complete. While this miniature might be subject to change, I would like to congratulate Resnova Games for what they have accomplished so far. I think they were able to achieve a very detailed sculpt that feels dynamic while remaining very faithful to the original concept designs from the 90s. I had so much fun painting this miniature and I can't wait to get started on the next one. Hopefully I can have that video up on the channel soon. Don't forget to follow the Kickstarter page, the link is in the description down below, and the campaign starts on May 2nd. Thank you so much for watching. Click subscribe and ring that bell icon if you don't want to miss out on any other future content from the channel. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and follow us on social media for updates. We'll see you next time. Good luck with your miniatures.